You see the candies right there with Valentine's Day tomorrow. It's actually a good time to talk about finances, what you need to know in a partner. Kyle Winkfield from OWRS firm is here to help out with that. This is an awkward conversation to be having on Valentine's Day, but necessary.
It can be awkward, Tom, but the one thing I've learned is that if you're casually dating, you can pretty much decide whether or not you want to talk about your finances, because if you're just catching a movie and bite to eat, no big deal.
Right.
But dating is preparation for marriage. So if it's getting serious, it's time to have that conversation. And I think the first step is learning about what's coming in. Like, what do you make? What does your partner make? And that's very, very important just to start the conversation.
It is. It's one of the top reasons why people get divorced is because of finances and not having the right communication there. So as my mother always said, every date is a potential mate. So when it starts, it hits that point where you're going, okay, this is serious. How do you start talking about it? And how do you say, is it more like, let's find out the same financial goals? Is that how you start it?
Well, you can start with goals. I think before you get to goals, you should start talking about, okay, this is what my salary is. I don't know if you knew that. And I think before you start asking someone something private about their money, share what you're making.
Okay.
Right? Then they'll say, oh, yeah, I'm making this. I think once you do that, then you can start talking about spending habits, because that's important, whether or not someone's a spender or a saver.
And then setting up a budget. So say if a married couple then is, you do get married, finances are okay right now, but setting up the budget, how do you do that, and how do you make it where it's 50-50?
Well, in terms of 50-50, I think really with couples, it's what works for them, right? So someone might carry just paying the house note and some of the major bills, and someone else takes care of the day-to-day stuff. But I think really getting into whether or not you're a spender or a saver. And I just want to say it's okay to be who you are. So if you're someone who really enjoys spending money and living in the moment, that's great. Other people like to save and they're frugal. Hey, if you're frugal, don't let them call you cheap. Right. And the way I look at it is like this. Okay, so you're a saver. If you're someone who's spending like $1,000 extra a month on your hobby, maybe it's fixing up classic cars or maybe shopping. Okay. You need to put that on the table and talk about it, because you don't want, you know, a couple months or years later person saying, hey, what are all these unexplained expenses? What's going on? And then that can rear its ugly head.
It causes some tension too. If somebody's spending more and it's bothering the other person, they don't speak up.
Right, they don't speak up, it's all that tension, and then all of a sudden you start separating out. So I think you gotta have the debt discussion. Okay. You definitely gotta talk about that.
You've sat down with couples before, a financial planner yourself. I mean, it's smart to go and see somebody, a third party. Do you agree with that?
I do agree with that, because after you have the debt discussion, you figure out, okay, for example, one person paid off all their credit cards and you have these goals, like maybe saving for a wedding or buying your own place together or whatever it is. That's when you start to have the planning discussion. Once you can say, a person can say, okay, I paid off my debt, you're struggling with yours, maybe they might help you. So sometimes having the debt discussion isn't a bad thing.
All right, there you go. And it's a much better conversation at dinner when you guys have your finances settled.
That's right.
Kyle Winkfield right there with OWRS. Thank you so much for your appreciate it.